ready to go?
Yeah.
Online. Thank you, everybody. Welcome to today's council meeting of 27th of March. And in terms of, we've had the council prayer this morning at a finance meeting. I have no apologies recorded and we have no public forum or for conflicts of interest. And as such, thank you. Moving on to item number 5 in terms of the confirmation of minutes. Looking at minutes, pages 6 through to 18, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, looking for a mover, please. Thank you, Councillor Sharlin moving, seconded, Councillor Lambert. Those in favour? Those against, carried. I've had no change of order of business as such either. Moving to item number 7, the follow-up actions from the previous meetings. Nothing to.
We're happy to take it and open the floor for any questions.
Thank you, Councillor Dougherty.
As per our last meeting, I think it was on, maybe it was assets and infrastructure. Thank you for the solution. Just wondering how far away it is, and if in the meantime we personally see a truck speeding through there, is there something we should be doing?
Passing to me or to Mr. Bernardo.
Whoever would like to answer the question.
Look, I will, if you see trucks going through, regardless of their speeding, if somebody wants to take a registration name and company name, I will ring that company. You could be there all day because the number that are doing this are huge. Numbers are huge.
So back to the first part of the question was when might the solution be implemented?
It's a technical question to pass to the operational arm of council.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. We are working with the contractor. We don't have a date yet. As soon as we have one, we'll bring it back.
Thank you.
Any further questions? But somebody, wait, did we receive that?
Not yet.
Somebody, thank you, Councillor Dougherty moving, Councillor Carter seconded. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Carried. Thank you very much. Moving to item number 8, the Mayor's report. There are essentially 2 reports. The first is the Mayor's report in the council agenda, and the second report is a tabled report, and I'll be moving receipt of both. I'll take questions on them. For those online, just an apology to people in Martin. The report says that the turnout for local water done well meetings has been incredibly poor. However, Martin, this was before I wrote the report. So the Martin one was excellent, about 36, I think it was, turning out there. So I'll take any questions on either report and or where I've been for meetings, etc. Councillor Duncan.
Page 21 of your report.
21.
Yes, 21.
Yeah.
Towards the bottom, D, what is different in National's version to Labour's three waters position? And it says there very little difference. And I just wonder if it is worth noting, because it made such a difference to the election, that the fact that co-governance has been removed and adherence to Te Mana o Te Wai has been taken out, those are actually very large differences, and I think they should be noted.
Yeah, fair point. Is anybody unfamiliar with the reference to that Councillor Duncan has made? But equally, I didn't put in with the mana to why effectively being removed, there's a whole lot of new standards coming in, that probably, in the eyes of government, will simplify the process as well. I wanted to make this part of the report as, try and simplify it as much as I possibly could. But it's interesting to note for those online that, for instance, if there was a change of government, that Labor has said that they will not substantially change the position that's in front of us now. Anything else? Thank you, Councillor Duncan.
Thank you. Page 25 also, the rural games, I see that you've made quite some comment about them, and it has come to us before to fund this. And I wonder if, from your opinion, having attended it, would we reconsider our stance of not funding those games?
It's interesting because this year, none of the councils stepped in as funding agents to it. So there was a change in how they've done it. And, I haven't in the past attended, some of the official receptions because we hadn't funded those, but I did attend the games. This time around, they made a point of saying to me, Andy, please, we need you at these functions. And none of the councils are active funders.
Thank you.
Councillor Moore.
Just under the horizons and rural games, just like to advise the council that our local dairy farmer, Kate Dawson, has won the Manawatu Share Farmer of the Year and will be representing the region nationally in May. Just for the record, really.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, so I haven't picked that up. So, yeah. And we should, I'm sure comms are listening to you, and comms may well wish to get in touch with you and make some sort of comment through our websites. We should acknowledge.
Yeah.
Councillor Loudon, did you have something? I think you looked.
Oh, I just had a comment on page 23, Kāingaora housing. Just how many houses does the Rangitikei or Kāingaora have in the Rangitikei? Just curiously. Have you any knowledge of that?
I have got it, but I can't bring it out immediately. I can tell you that the number of people on waiting lists for housing in our district has dropped and dropped reasonably substantially. They have built new homes in Wellington Road, Hokipapa Road, so that they're going through quite a replacement process. And long term, they're wanting to drop the numbers of homes they have. One of the side issues, which includes us, is those on the waiting list tend to want only a 1-bedroom property. If you like, I'll try and get you the actual numbers. Rangitikei, it's on trackable through the websites, not our website. So, anything further? The symposium one in Auckland, I hummed and hard really as to whether to go to it. It previously had been in Wellington, which was much easier in terms of logistics, transport. You could just pop down for the day. Auckland, you can't. It is reasonably expensive. But did I see merit in it? Yes. But I was humming and hawing about whether I should or shouldn't go to that one. So no further questions. I move that my report be received. Looking second, Councillor Carter. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Carried. Thank you very much. Moving on, item number 9.
We've got one more.
Oh, sorry. The second recommendation is that Councillor Paul Sharman be appointed as the alternate for the Mayor and Councillor Carter to the Bulls Community Committee. I'm happy to move. Happy to second. Councillor Moore seconding. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against, carried.
Well done, Paul. Congratulations.
Thanks, Paul.
Moved now to item 9.1, the Chief Executive's report, passed to the Chief Executive.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I'll go through the report as we normally do and stop in each section to see if you have any questions. So section 2 is around events held at our facilities since the last report period. On to item 3. So we've got some staff movements there, but this time we've also supplied the exit interview summary. So if there's any comment or questions on there, I think it was quite useful to show the trends on why people were leaving and around career development. But we have been able to retain some staff recently due to career development as well, which is really good.
Yeah, I thought it was quite reassuring.
Councillor Moore?
Yeah, I have got I highlighted something, but I can't find it was on the exit.
Was it
What
about
page
the
are we on?
relationships?
There was a whole lot on it. Oh, yes, I'm 1 page short. It was where, when you did the exit strategies, the reasons for leaving, and it was, I haven't got the page here right yet, but it was something about staff culture or council culture
It
or
may have
something.
been,
It's under trends.
it may have been 4.1.5, while it's difficult to assess trends.
Oh, yeah.
The
The most commonly,
organisational culture.
yeah, reported was RDC's organisational culture.
It was the highlight.
Was that a highlight or does it say, yeah, it read a little bit different to me? Yeah.
So I think the trend shows that people, even though they were leaving, they still felt the organisation had a good culture. And one of the main reason they were leaving was the career development opportunity.
Yeah, okay, so
Yeah,
I
I-
sort of read it a little bit different.
Yeah, I read it initially the first time the same way that you did. And I wondered about it, so.
That's clarified, thank you.
That's coming from Highland. That's read it wrong, mate.
Any further on that? Otherwise we'll move on. That's right.
Thank you. The health, safety and wellbeing dashboard is attached, just reminding you that we also get this, Councillor Dalgety, Councillor Wilson, His Worship received this from ELT at our monthly meetings as well.
And Councillor Dalgety sits in that.
That's consultation tracker dashboard. This is just useful to show you what we are working on at the moment. And like I say, the community boards and the community committees find this useful too. I'll pass over to Katrina, who now is in charge of submissions, and she's got a couple of updates in this area.
Thank you. So just 2 updates. There is quite a bit going on in this space at the moment, but there are 2 that have come out since the writing of this report. The first is to bring your attention to expert advisory group on resource management. They've released their RMA blueprint. That's not open for consultation, but I can circulate around to elected members the details of that. That effectively sets out the blueprint for resource management reform. The government has suggested that we're looking at getting new legislation introduced by the end of the year. The second one that came out late last week is the central government electoral boundaries. So the Representation Commission has looked into those boundaries and is consulting on proposed changes to those at the moment as well. Not to be confused with our local government ones. These are the central government ones.
The next section covers the support for survivors of abuse and care, the fund that we are applying for. Gayleen is in the room, who is looking after this process if there's any questions on this one.
Is there any comment from you, Barry?
Just a quick update. At this stage that we've identified, there's approximately 119 unmarked graves. And we're just getting quotes about what that might look like for memorials, etc.
So what was that number?
119.
So the fund has a maximum, supposed maximum of $50,000.
That's correct.
And however, I do know that if we applied for more, it would be granted. Councillor Pakitoa here.
So are you saying that 119 are all sit within this category? They're all,
Yes,
They also in that
we've
category.
identified to date that there's 119 that would fit within the category and another 100 already have marked graves.
We've got an estimate of cost.
We're just going through that process at the moment.
We can provide another update if it's available for the next meeting or the following.
We just put that as an action, please.
Thank you. And the last section there is, as this subject will be well known to everyone across the district, the rubbish collection services. I felt it was important to put this into a report somewhere, just noting that we will incur added cost to come up with a temporary arrangement, which we have done. After this report, we also have extended the ability for people to drop their bags off until Sunday. So this cost is likely to be higher. If you allow me to, I'd actually just like to say thank you to the staff that actually made this happen. It was quite a challenging situation, but Jared in particular, Raj, Crystal, and then of course Ben and Sophia on the comms side of things just made the messaging really clear and have continued that. And Ben pretty much was on socials all weekend answering questions. So we've had some excellent feedback from doing that and from also putting the system in place. So I think it's just important that we do note that this has been an added extra for everyone.
Yeah, and thank you also to the Deputy Mayor, Dave, coming in, where we met with staff, ended up with a great result, other than the fact that it's going to cost us a little bit of extra money.
Also our customer experience staff who received quite a number of calls.
Yeah, as Dave and I did as well.
So there's nothing on that one. There's two statements there, just providing you updates on the Cooks Wall and also Broadway High Street buildings, but there may be further information more public excluded if Jared will come along to that part of the meeting.
Any further questions right through to the end of that report? Well, while you're thinking, can somebody move reception, please? Councillor Loud and Councillor Carter, those in favour?
Fine.
Those against? Carried. Any further questions? No, thank you very much. Move to item number 10, the adoption of the annual plan. And we welcome Jana to the table. Jana.
Thank you. So this report is to adopt the annual plan and co for consultation with the community. Over the last number of months, we've had a lot of workshops going through the annual plan, and you've seen and directed the development of the content of the annual plan. Through those workshops, we didn't identify any material significant changes, therefore there is actually no requirement to consult. But you have directed us to develop some consultation material to go out and do that. We've also got three other items that we're also looking to consult on. That's the waste management and minimisation plan, which was workshopped over the last year. The schedule of fees and charges, again workshopped. We also have the draft dangerous, affected and sanitary buildings policy. This was taken to the Policy and Planning Committee in February. I do just want to point your attention to the recommendations on how we are adopting for consultation. You'll notice this is a little bit different from in the past, as there's no significant or material changes. However, we will still be consulting on it, and our consultation doesn't look any different to our normal process.
Probably just move the receipt of that, so I'm that vote. Councillor Hero moving, Councillor Wilson seconding. Those in favour? Councillor Hughes. Just before we go through questions around this, and I'll take questions around all parts of that. We're in a little bit of an unusual situation here because we know that there will be changes that will kick into place potentially with capital expenditures and those sorts of things, but we're not in the position to be able to identify all of those at the current position. So that makes it quite a challenging year in effect. But I'll take any questions. Sorry?
Through the chair, it will not change, it will not increase.
No, correct.
Sorry, can you repeat that, Leanne? I couldn't
It
hear.
will not increase rates. There may be, depending on how far we get with the debt, there may be decrease, but it will not increase.
So, for instance, if the CapEx program is altered, that will potentially lower the rating impact for that year by way of depreciations. Take any questions, Councillor Duncan?
So my question is around the fact that we're consulting, even though in fact we don't have any material differences. I'm always very aware of the fact that there is consultation fatigue are we risking that with consulting on something that is actually not materially different, and yet we have potentially got the consultation for the swimming pool might come up within this year as an extra process?
I think that what you will find is that a number of processes will be wrapped into conversations with our communities. So when we go out to meet with communities, for instance, if you're at the top of the Turakina Valley or wherever, the conversations will be around a range of things that council is involved in. So it's probably more informing rather than looking for a waiting option on something. It's the way that I see this. Councillor Gianpieri.
Just with it, how I'm thinking about it is it's more the scale of spend is the reason why we need to consult with our communities and ensure they understand what's happening around this table.
Yeah, we're in territory that our council's never been in before in terms of scale of spend. Absolutely. We're also new territory around local water done well, all sorts of things, and they want the conversation. Our rural properties will be saying to us, deterioration of roads, for instance, is their top of these will be conversations. Anything further? Would somebody like to then move recommendation that there will be no significant or material difference? That second recommendation, please. Councillor Wilson moving, looking for a second to that. Councillor Sharlin seconding. You wish to speak to it?
No, you wish, I think it's actually.
Any speakers to or for or against? Put it to vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Recommendation 3, that council adopts the annual plan and 2025-26 document and the draft annual plan 25-26 for community consultation under section 82 of the Local Government Act 2002, and that council gives the chief executive authority to make minor editorial and formatting changes. I'm happy to move that. Looking for a seconder to that. Thank you, Councillor Lambert, seconding. Any questions before that goes to a vote? Any speakers? Oh, this is a simple process. Put it to vote. Those in favour? Right. Those against? Carried. We have a series of things that we have to adopt for consultation, the draft waste management and minimisation plan, the dangerous, affected and sanitary buildings policy, and the proposed schedule of fees and charges. Would somebody like to move that we adopt those for consultation? Councillor Wilson, Councillor Dalgety. Councillor Wilson, do you wish to speak to it? I'll take questions second. Sorry, I'll take your question first, actually, Councillor Duncan.
Sorry, I just need to bring it up. So the proposed schedule of fees and charges is not showing up. Sorry. I don't have a page number, but from that document, I see that we are not providing, well, this is my question, are we not providing photocopying and printing anymore in any of our facilities?
I can answer that. We actually had photocopying charges in 2 places within the document. You'll now find them all under the miscellaneous charges heading towards the end of the document.
Thank you. So in other words, we are, yeah,
Yes.
So
wonderful.
that satisfies your question.
Yes, thanks, Janet.
Further questions? Speakers?
Just as Murphy just speak, I think that the waste management minimalisation plan and the dangerous and federal are required to consult on those policies as per schedule. So it is a timing thing, and it is timing to wrap that up into this overall consultation document of the annual plan. And also just to note that the proposed fees and charges was the subject of a workshop where some discussion was held. Largely, as you recall, it was a bit of a tidying up process and some rounding of some very odd numbers that we'd had on. I recall one fee was something like $43.60 or something, which seemed a little odd. So there was a bit of a tidying up process, but it certainly is a document that needs to be reviewed and put out in conjunction with our annual plan. So I am in favour of the recommendation for.
Any further speakers? Just to add to that by way of speaking that there is also a degree of standardisation between ourselves and other districts. No further speakers, I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you very much. 10.2, the analysis of submissions of Ratana Road renaming. Could somebody personally move for the reception of the report? Councillor Hill moving, Councillor Carter seconding. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Is there a staff member that is going to take us through this?
Yeah, I'll take you through this, Your Worship. So you recall that we have a road numbering / naming issue out at Ratana Park. The Ratana Community Board had been working hard on an option to rectify that. Council went out for consultation with directly impacted landowners on the proposed renaming of the rural section of road to Papakoda. Council received one submission from Ricky Taiaroa, and he came to speak at the oral hearing last month. What this report sets out is that context, his submission, but it also provides you with the recommendation from the Ratana Community Board back from their meeting in February in response to that written submission. Their advice back to council is to rename that section of road as Papakoda. You'll also note that we also received a letter from the church committee supporting the name as Papakoda.
I'll take any questions. Councillor Morn.
Yeah, just through you, how has there been another discussion with Mr. Taiaroa?
No.
Any further questions? Councillor Dalgety.
I'm just, are council staff confident that we have been speaking, this process has been involved speaking to the right people and yeah.
Yeah, through you, Your Worship. We've taken our advice from the Ratana Community Board, who is the appropriate board to take advice on, and they've led us through the process in terms of speaking with the right people and following the customs from the past.
Thank you.
Councillor Hira.
In recommendation 2, can I ask that we consider adding something onto that recommendation? So it says that council renames rural section of Dartmouth Road north of Papakoda is recommended by that board. So, you know,
You can recommend that it's your recommendation, so it wouldn't be a change. That's a suggested recommendation by staff. If you wish to make another recommendation, that's fine.
okay. Well, I'm happy to move that, to move this motion, but also just add to say that as has been, you know, we have been, we've taken it, we haven't just, council hasn't come up with it.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you want to, I'm sure we're going to have to really.
Something
If you're included in there,
No, just she wants to say.
Second that, your worship.
When they read the motion.
so councillor Wilson is seconding it. Go back to formal process. Councillor Hira, do you wish to speak to that?
Well, in the time that I've been, I wasn't at the last meeting, but when this has come up, and I feel like I did ask Mr. Taido at the last meeting whether or not he'd had contact with the Rātana Community Board. I feel like they've done, and it does show within the paperwork that there has been conversations, a number of conversations. The Rātana Community Board members themselves had gone out, and I know that for sure that they'd gone out for consultation with the community that's affected. So, yeah, in lieu of that, I'd be more, well, I'm moving that recommendation.
Take any other speakers? Councillor Wilson and myself, Councillor Wilson.
Certainly supporting councillor Hira on this recommendation and on the statement she's just made. I just seek some clarity that does this recommendation give council what they require to then go and enact it through the proper procedures. If you're comfortable with that, that doesn't require a secondary one. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Just from me, the report indicates I was at the meeting but did not voice an opinion. The reason for that is that I could have been seen to predetermine, having not heard all sides of the argument effectively. Any speakers against? Councillor Lowell.
Not against, just a question.
That's a question, certainly.
Once council makes that recommendation, will it then have to go in front of government sort of, no? Land information.
I wouldn't anticipate you've got a situation of government wanting to change the recommendation as happened with recently with the minister.
Yeah, no, I can confirm through you, your worship, that council has delegation to name its own roads. We inform Land Information New Zealand, but we have that delegation.
On that basis, I'll put it to vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Moving through to 10.3, triennial elections 2025. Would somebody like to move the receipt of the report? Thank you, Councillor Maughan, Councillor Duncan. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Who's going to take us through this?
Take you through, your worship.
Thank you.
So the purpose of this report is to provide you with a brief overview of the timeframes for the triennial elections and establish the order in which candidate names will be shown on the voting documents. We contract out the management of our elections to elections.com, and our electoral officer is Warwick Land, and then I'm acting as your deputy electoral officer. In terms of the order of candidate names, there are 3 options for you to consider. Random, where all candidate names are randomly selected by computer and the order of names is different on every voting document. The pseudo-random, where all candidate names are randomly selected and that's the order that appears on all voting documents. and then alphabetical by surname. You'll see in the report, there's some statistics around who does what. Last election as a council, we were at random order.
Questions? Would somebody like to move in some direction, councillor Wilson?
Move receipt, that's been done, sorry, random, as per our previous elections.
Are you wishing to second that? You wish to speak to it?
Just very quickly, that's simply just a matter of throwing your hat in the air and putting it in a hat, tipping it up and see what comes out. I think it's the most fairest way out of all the other options. It's purely and simply random. It falls where it falls, and that's the way it is. So it's good.
That's a Dalgety.
I just ask please of council staff, are we able to ensure those dates get put in our calendar, please? Thank you.
Any further questions? Otherwise, I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you very much. Item 11, Martin Pool update. Could somebody please first of all move the receipt of the report? Councillor Dalgety, councillor Sharlin, those in favour? Those against? Carried. Arno.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, so this report is a quick summary of where we've gotten to with the Martin Pool and the investigation we've done. The first phase of the work was to do a detailed asset condition assessment. Second phase of the work is to put costs to all those renewals and upgrades that we would have to consider. And then the engineers doing the work came up with 4 high-level options that we can discuss in more detail. That really is a quick fix that we can do to bring the facility back to what it was before the beam had a partial failure. And then it escalates from there to saying, well, let's look at the whole facility, which of the assets need a renewal as it stands now. Then it continues to extensive renewals that we can do over the next 3 to 5 years. And the fourth option is a consolidated view of what the asset could look like if you would consider a refreshed 50-year life for that asset. Those prices vary between less than $1 million for option 1 to around $12 for option 4. 12 million, sorry. Yes, we'll take 4.
Yeah, I'll give you the $12.
And then you will notice that this will come back to an assets infrastructure for more detailed discussion. Yes, with the engineer in the room.
Take questions. Feeling is it is what it is, and until we get to a stage of understanding ranges of prices in front of us, it's very difficult to comment further.
Just make comment, if I may, in referencing back to earlier discussions when this happened last year through discussions at Assets Infrastructure and also through the council meeting. The council staff have followed exactly what the council recommendation was at the time, and that was to close the pool, to take a more holistic view of it, and we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that that's what our decision around this council table was. And the initial stage of this report has achieved exactly that to us. So certainly looking forward to moving on to the next stages of this and breaking it down, hopefully into bite-sized pieces that we can move forward. But just reminding councillors that that was a decision that was requested of staff, and staff have produced exactly that. So thank you.
Councillor Dalgety, then myself, councillor.
Do we know, would we be able to open up next season for any of those options?
That's the desire. That's where we're trying to head to, and I'm pushing very hard to get into that position. However, until we receive decisions around where we need to go with this, and decisions around how it could be potentially funded, we wait, and then there's of course the matter of timing with contractors to do the required work. So there's a number of moving parts in this, but that is the desire. The other thing that I mentioned in finance this morning, I raised the issue just to highlight the one of how the pool is funded and in terms of depreciation schedules. So the council of the day, a very long time ago, made the decision not to depreciate fund the swimming pool. And so if you look in simple terms of that decision, what the decision means is that you're not accumulating a budget for major upgrades or replacement. And you then take the view that if a pool needed major work or replacement, it becomes almost like putting a new pool in terms of, that's the simple version of it. Would finance like to comment further?
Through the chair, yeah, essentially we haven't been banking money to replace this, so we won't treat it as could be such significant, it will be a new asset.
Yeah.
And at our next long-term plan, we can also then have a look at our financial strategy if we want to do things differently moving forward.
Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, sorry, Your Worship, perhaps spoke, but I'd just like to follow up on one little matter. If we're going to have some sort of a workshop and a discussion with engineers to try and formulate, thinking about some timeframes here, clearly, at a workshop we can make no decisions as such, but I don't want to see us in a situation where we have to wait to another month for a council meeting to make a full decision. Should we need to access something urgently and thinking about trying to get that open in some form for the summer. So just some consideration for staff, if you're thinking about that procedurally, what we may be able to do to ensure the decision could be made. A 2 weeks difference between that might not sound like much, but when you're trying to schedule that with a potential contractor, that could be the difference of arriving next month or arriving in 6 months. So I would just like us to have a little bit of a thought on how we might be able to do that.
We will still need to go through an approval process in terms of the funding positions.
Yes.
And regardless as to whether, if it was possible to fund it with alternate sources other than rates, that's a slightly different issue. But the range of decisions in this sort of situation are huge. For instance, at one extreme, you could say, we don't replace the pool, end of story. The other extreme, you could say, we need to upgrade it to something that is state of the art for swimming pools in New Zealand. So I take your point, and I think possibly if we got to the situation where there were some imminent discussions in front of us, I'd be prepared to call council back in some shape or form to do that.
Excellent. That's what I was looking to hear. Thank you.
There's nothing further that we can do other than take the advice that's been tabled. There's nothing further. Mr. Bernardi, did you wish to make it on to it? Thank you. Move to 11.2, project updates reports. Would somebody like to move they be received? And then we'll go through them, take questions as we go. Councillor Carter, Councillor Dow, getting those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Floor's with you, sir.
Thank you very much. I think as we do every time, we'll just step through them one by one. I will bring your attention to anything that I think is of specific importance in this report, and I'm open to questions. So the first one is Martin Toobull's wastewater centralisation. I think the ones ready to note in the report is investigations are continuing to see if the land that we purchased is suitable for what we want to do. So if you look at item 2.6, so far it looks like there's not enough land. So we'll see as we continue with those investigations, but we thought it's important that we notify you early on that potentially there's not enough and that we would have to consider either purchasing more or other options.
Can I just ask a question there? Council had a presentation some time ago around how the land could be used in terms of planting it. with hardwoods or some cover crop, finding potentially carbon credits, etc., and facilitating the uptake of nitrogen. Was that has that been part of the thinking?
I think at the moment it's really only about the soil types, the groundwater, the distance between the two, those kind of high level discussions about what the soil can take. I think the real detail of if this is the problem, what is the potential solution is a little bit further down the line.
Can we just have somebody look at matching up those two types of reports that we've had presented to us to see if there are any opportunities there? Could we take that just as an action? Councillor Moore.
Yeah, on the same topic, is that the not having enough land based on this totally land-based disposal, or is it? You got number one of totally land-based, or
Yep.
a combination of one or two or three.
Through Mr. Chair, it's a mixture of things. So at the moment we're looking at 3 or 4 options. The one is everything goes to land, 100%. The second one is a mixture of some goes to land, some goes to the river. So for instance, in the winter when there's high rainfall, we can use the river potentially. And then there's the option of all of it go to the river. So those are the 3 obvious ones, all to land, all to river, or something in between. And then the fourth one is potentially looking at groundwater injection. So what this looks at is for all of those. So in the winter, if we're going to use a mixture, we potentially would need more storage and more land. If we're going to do 100%, we need a lot more of all of it. So it's kind of rolled up in all of those options. What this is showing us so far is potentially that land is not quite enough.
So just for those online, Councillor Moore, are you referring to the suggested changes under national in terms of consent for wastewater plants, etc.?
No, not really. I just wanted, I'm just thinking that if it was all, I could understand there wasn't enough land if it was all be put on the land. I just wanted to know if those 4 options that we had, regardless of the rules and regulations, whether at option 4, whether we had enough land, and option 1 we didn't. But you've explained it that it's either way we haven't got enough land at the moment. Under investigation.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Carter, Councillor Jones, Councillor Duncan. Sorry.
Is that land not enough? Is that because of the soil types?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's a mixture of soil types and groundwater. It's some kind of mixture between all.
Councillor Duncan.
So yes, it's not enough land under current rules, just to clarify.
Through you, Mr. Chair, if I may just draw councillors' attention to 2.5. We have Steve Kahn coming in to update you on the new national wastewater standards, proposed national wastewater standards. Potentially that could have a material impact on what we're doing.
That's what I thought that Councillor Moore was looking at. Councillor Dalgetty.
Just for clarity, because I think this deep bore groundwater is a new thing. So we put down another bore on that land and basically dilution is the solution. Is that how that would work?
Through your chair, and basically that's how it works. So what normally we'll do is go very deep so nobody uses that aquifer, and the next step for that is the ocean anyway. And the idea is that you inject the treated wastewater, so it is of a high quality, back into the groundwater very deep, and it has no effect on the aquifer. The problem with that option is there's very little research and available literature on that, and it makes the consenting process much more challenging.
Because we don't have a map of our unseen aquifers.
We do. There is a huge amount of information, especially in this area, about aquifers and And the geohydrology underneath all of this. So there's a lot of information on it. Yeah.
I think we did have a bore that was drilled to 500 metres. Huge depth further out the sand country. Councillor Hero, I can see you on the verge of a question or a thought.
Well, I was interested in what the answer was gonna be to, what
Councillor.
Councillor Delgety had just asked. These are, because I don't know if what how you've replied kind of makes a lot of sense and what, answers that question. So the question in my head that was asked was about what the problem was. So what the problem was, and so it was identified. It's not because of the aquifers. That's not the problem. Is it the technology of it? That's the problem.
Through Mr. Chair. So the problem is the amount of scientific information that people can lean on to make a decision if this is a good or a bad idea. So both ways. So if we would put that up as an option, then people that would want to submit for or against the option would need to have a lot of scientific information to determine, is this going to have a big impact on groundwater so deep down, or will this have little impact? So we need to base that on science, and there is not that much out there.
Supplementary to that, how deep are we talking?
Unknown. It depends on the aquifers and the geohydrology and what layers supplies what.
I can see this becoming a very specialised discussion further down the track in terms of workshop. I'm going to let this run for a while. Councillor Loudon.
Just on the capacity of what you're saying now to cope with Martin and Bulls wastewater. Much of the district's growth is forecast to be in the Martin and Bulls area. Are you forecasting forward as to what that growth might be, and can we cope with that wastewater disposal with this facility? Potentially.
Absolutely. So we will design the plant capacity in alignment with the spatial plan and what we propose growth would look like for Martin and Bulls, and that also includes ANSCO in Bulls. So we can have enough for all of that.
Councillor Hero.
So does that mean, the explanation around the deep bore, if that's not something that would fly, why would we continue going down the track of having it as an option, or would we?
So at the moment, we are looking at potential options. So we've gone from a long list to a shorter list. These are the 4 ones that stayed or remained as potential options. The difficulties with this option has already been identified, that it will be difficult to consent. It's difficult to show either that there is an effect or not. So we are all aware there is some difficulties in the consenting process, although it is still a practical option that you could pursue if we really wanted to. So what we'll do is we'll put all 4 of them into a large matrix and then decide which is the best one. And that will include affordability and environmental outcomes, cultural outcomes, all of those aspects.
Thank you.
Councillor Loudon.
With us moving towards local water done well, and formation of a separate CCO to run Three Waters. If this project is still in doubt, is there a chance that the CCO won't take on the land or this project if it's in doubt? And where does that leave council with investment in this piece of land?
I think it's a hypothetical question that's difficult or impossible to answer. I think what we need to do as a responsible organisation is to do what we need to do right now with the regulations that we face right now. And even if you think in the short term of the national wastewater standards that might change things, we can't sit and wait for things to be finalised. I think we go along And as new information comes to light, we'll sit down with council and have more discussion as to what direction would you like to go.
And what I would point out, councillor, is we have a contractual relationship with Horizons in terms of solving a consenting issue. And so that we will go down this path. And remember that regardless of the regional CCO setup, we will still be operating these plants in our own name and right through to 27, 28. So if we, for instance, stopped because of the possibility of an entity board saying, and there would be a possibility of the entity board saying there's a new direction, we'd be in breach of the agreements that we currently had with Horizons, as I understand it. Is that advice correct?
As it stands right now, yes.
Councillor Dalgety.
However, if we suddenly find ourselves not requiring this land, we have got an asset we can sell on. So I don't think there's a huge amount of risk there.
We could sell that up to the price that we paid today, effectively, because of the way it was acquired. We'll move on, please.
Thank you.
Sorry, did you want to say something, Chief Executive?
Thank you very much. We'll go on to the next one, which is the Ratana wastewater discharge. You'll remember from my previous update, we're in the consenting process. We had a pre-hearing. We need to go and collect more information. It will take some time, and it'll just be in a holding pattern until we can tick all those boxes. Any questions on that?
Just with this one. In terms of National's position on appeals of this nature, where, especially where somebody is deemed not to be an affected party, this is something that National has signalled that they look to change. And this is the case there, as I understand it. So this is not a party that is affected by this process. Yep, moving.
Thank you. We'll move on to the water projects, and the first one there is the Martin Water Strategy. The 2 or 3 things I'd like to point to would be we are very close to finalising the warranty conditions and the contract. So that will be a big step for us to move forward. Once the contract is in place, obviously they can place orders and do all kinds of important things for us to move on. The other one will be 4.5. We're paying real attention now to the waste stream. What we're trying to do is leverage benefit out of that, like I've mentioned before, to see if we can use that instead of having to extract more water out of the bore. Can we treat that, do a second treatment and use water that we already have? So we're putting a lot of effort into that now. And the last one is just 4.6, just again to confirm, warranty will come to council before we sign anything. To be sure that you feel comfortable with what's in there.
Questions, Councillor Moore?
Oh, it's only a typo again. We mentioned it at the assets and infrastructure meeting, the 4.5, the recycling the steam. We didn't want people confused that there was steam going in the, so that hadn't been changed, so we pointed it out.
I've previously pointed that out on another report too, so. Councillor Wilson, in terms of your comment around, for instance, the Martin Pool, I think there is so much work heading in within your assets department that there may well need to be a meeting specifically on these sorts of issues. So if these contracts could conceivably sit within special meetings as well, which would need to be advertised for those online. Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that, and that's exactly where I was going with the pool matter, and this possibly falls into the same category. Just looking at the waste stream question, have we considered whether or not some of the methods you're talking about to be recycling and using it back through? Do we need to be considering that we may end up need to go down a consent line, and are you considering that, or can we filter it back through into the dams through our current process?
Yeah, so that really is the benefit. We have an existing consent that only expires in 2033 that allows us to make use of those dams up at the current dam. If we reduce our volumes down to what we want to do, we can continue using that consent and we don't have to apply for a new one. So there's multiple benefits in getting this right. Also important for councillors is the new treatment plant will be built in the same building. The footprint's quite small. Which means the existing structures are still there. So we are proposing to use the existing structures for the recycling.
Yeah, I understand what the proposal is, but have we thought about the fact that, hang on a minute, we can't do this and we do need to go down a consenting line, or you're fairly confident this won't eventuate, because if we have to go down a consenting line, i.e. we've just had the previous article with Ratana wastewater treatment, here we are 5 or 6 years down the road trying to just tidy up on some consenting and things, so. Not a concern?
Well, it's always a concern, but we are confident that we would get it to that level.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Delegating.
In previous discussions, we've talked about the possibility of maybe having an open day. Is that still a consideration?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But I think it's once we have something to show. At the moment, we don't, and it's on our plan. And Anna will give us the go ahead when we can advertising.
Thank you.
Thank you, moving on.
Thank you. Moving on to community facilities. The first one is the Martin offices and library. And the important item there would be 5.7. We've completed the tender process and there's a report coming to council today that will contain more details around that.
So for those online, that's a report under public exposure.
It is, yeah.
So I think we can park that one now. 6.
Item 6 is the Taipei grandstand. 6.3 of the report. The meeting on the 19th of March was well attended. I think we got a lot of value out of that. And I know there are follow-up meetings that will continue to assist that group to come to a final view.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to thank Councillor Duncan for chairing meeting in Taihape. It was well chaired, well done. Councillor.
I just want to say thank you to staff too. We have a lot of staff, and it was great to have Kevin there also, Kevin Ross, our previous CE, who has now taken on this project. And I think the meeting was more laborious because we needed to make sure that he got some background and everyone had a chance to speak. But yeah, it was really great. And I think people are very positive about going forward. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Duncan. Just one comment from me that Ishwar is still the project manager for this. And yeah, just want to make
good at titles.
no, and that Kevin is doing it under the direction of me, so that I don't have to get involved in everything. So he's just driving this until it's at a safe place that Ishwar can just continue. So, but it is Ishwar's project.
Can I ask then, can you just clarify that with me? Just, send me a, like, what do I call Kevin? Yeah.
Mr. Ross.
Yeah.
He'd be happy with pay you. We're taking your point.
Yes.
Councillor Delgado.
It was great to attend that meeting and see the feeling of the community and hopefully go forward in a positive manner. But personally, I have concerns around the size of the mountain we're expecting the community to fund here. So, yeah.
So in terms of the expectation from council, because you brought it up, the expectation is council approved a budget of $1 million. And that is the budget. How, and a chunk of that, a couple of $100,000, 300,000 has effectively been used. How the balance of that budget is used is up for a community discussion and deliberation around whether it is used right now for strengthening the building, or whether it's used in part to understand what the rugby clubs, etc., would like to see done, and the drawings of that. And if you go down that path, there are timeframes to consider, and there is the consideration of how it would be funded. Would that be a fair summary, Councillor Duncan?
Yes, thank you. And I'd also like to say that the meeting fairly much agreed that there are three main parties now that need to be consulting, and it's the playground group, the rugby, and the Heritage Society, who would like to have an overview from a heritage perspective, but are otherwise satisfied with the saving of the building.
Councillor Wong.
Could I just add something that Deputy Mayor Councillor Dave Wilson was also present, and he made a good point in saying that with the number of users for the group, including rugby, all the different sports groups, heritage, they had a very good basis of raising funds on a large basis, and they shouldn't overlook the fact that they've got more perhaps power than they believe they have. So that is probably a good point in Councillor Doggetti.
Thank you. Further questions around this item? Ishmael, do you want to?
No. Thank you, Your Worship. The next one is number 7, the Taihape Town Hall. The important one there, 7.3, Maycroft committed to getting some more detailed information back to us. That is also contained in a report that Ishmael would bring to council today.
Thank you.
8 is the Martin Swim Centre. I think we have discussed that in quite a lot of detail. And under miscellaneous is Scott's Ferry. The important thing under the Scott's Ferry is Kevin Ross is helping us out in that space to get the memorandum of understanding across the line and to allow more frequent communications with the group to make sure that they're up to speed with what's going on.
Councillors, I have seen a draft position of that MOU, but it will be added to, and then it will be circulated. Yeah,
No, I think that's fair comment.
Thank you very much.
Right, thank you. I'll move to item 12, minutes from committees. And would somebody like to receive all of those minutes, presumably at a block? Councillor Morn, wishing to receive? Looking for a second to that. Councillor Charlton seconding. Those in favour? No. Those against? Carried. Item number 13, recommendations from committees. Who wishes to take us through this?
I will. Your Worship. So this was, if you remember, this was an item that was discussed in public excluded, and these are the resolutions that come into the public domain. And the resolution is to pass that to become public from that portion of the meeting.
Thank you. Could somebody move the recommendation, the receipt first of the recommendation? Councillor Wilson moving, Councillor Hero seconding. All those in favour? To my eye. Says thank you. I will move that the recommendation goes into the public arena. That the following recommendation.
Sorry, there has been a slight confusion with this one. I'll just take us back a step. So a report came to the Assets Infrastructure Committee around a request that came in from one party in terms of a claim to the Taihape Town Hall procurement process. The Assets and Infrastructure Committee discussed it firstly in the open meeting and then went into public excluded and further discussed it, and then put a recommendation back in the open environment so that it could come as part of this meeting today. So what we're asking for is you have received the report. The second recommendation is the recommendation from the Assets Infrastructure Committee to council, saying they recommend that council doesn't approve the payment of the $12,000. So just put some clarity around that.
Councillor Wilson.
Oh, just as chair of the Assets and Infrastructure Committee, I'd just like to confirm what the chief executive has said is a true and accurate record of that meeting held at the time.
So are you willing to move? I'm willing to second. You wish to speak to it?
I don't believe it's required, your worship.
And it would be difficult for us to speak to it because this is purely a recommendation that came out of a public excluded document. So I put to the vote, those in favour, those against, carry. Item number 14, the decision to move to public excluded for the reasons given. Would someone like to so move? Councillor Carney moving. And Councillor Lambert, are you seconding?
Indeed, yes.
Those in favour? Those against? Carried, thank you very much. Councillors will